Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how I do it, even if you don't care. And I know I said that the next video segment I was going to do is a how to build terrain for Battlefleet Gothic, but I have been asked if I could do an overview of the different armies so everyone who hasn't played the game can get an idea of what type of armies there are and what they'd like to play. And so we're going to do that instead. Before I continue, I just want to say this is all strictly opinion based. I'm not saying that what I say here is actually, something you should take a look into account to because it's all true. I could say something about a certain ship and miss a strength or flaw in the ship itself because I am not that great at strategy. My expertise in these games are more luck of the dice rolls than anything. I did actually ask a colleague of mine, the keeper of the Fortress Monastery, who does a lot of these in-depths to do this for me, but he never got back to me, so I'm going to have to do the videos myself. I guess it's okay for him to ask me to paint his orcs for him, but it's not okay for me to ask him to do a small favor like this. So, that all aside, let's continue. We're going to go first with the Imperial Guard, since that's the first ship's series you get in the Battlefleet Gothic rulebook, and we're going to go with the Battlefleet Gothic core rule ships first. And the first on our list is the battleships. Now, overall, Imperial Guard, what's great about their fleet is most of them are stat-wise the same. Their hit points, their speeds, their turns, their shields, their armor, their turrets. Good chunk of the time they're about the same. There's some subtle differences here and there, but it allows you to focus more on what kind of offensive type of army you want to play, so it allows for a lot of originality and a lot of creative team-ups and such that may not be possible with other forces. Now, our first ship in the list is the Imperial Emperor-class battleship. Now, this one is a decent ship, to be fair. It has 12 hit points, which is a lot, and its speed is 15 centimeters, so it's really slow. Its turns are about the average for any battleship, which is 45 degrees, and it's got 4 shields. Armor 5, which is a little weak because it gave up its armor for a +1 leadership and a couple of extra weapon turrets, and it's got 5 turrets, which is great for if you try to attack it with torpedoes. It's got a lot of defense against torpedoes on it. Weaponry-wise, it's fairly decent. I'd have to give it that. Its weapon batteries are 6, and they fire left to right, and its dorsal weapon batteries, which fire in all 3 directions, are 5. So, in any given direction you're firing at, on your left or your right side, you're going to be firing about 11 dice, which is probably going to be reduced down to about maybe, I can't really say because I don't have the weapon chart in front of me, but it's a nice, decent-sized dice roll. You have a good chance of really doing damage to a ship. It's also got fighter bays with 4 squadrons each, so you could produce an 8-man squad if you want, of either fighters or bombers, and for an additional 5 points, it can carry assault boats, which is fairly decent, so you've got a lot of options to go around with this. This is a fairly solid battleship, but in terms of gaming, I would probably only use this as a, backwards defense ship, something I'd keep at the back line, and fire a bunch of fighters at and keep with a couple of cruisers around it and only really get into combat with it if it really has to. And to note, with almost all Imperial battleships, you can only do you can't do come to a new heading because they're so slow they just can't make the turns fast enough they just can't move fast enough to turn them. And so that's one fairly big of a downside, but it's not too much that you really shouldn't account for that with the Imperial Guard unless you really want a fast army to play. Now, their next battleship on the list is personally one of my favorites, which is the Imperial Retribution-class battleship. I like this one because it's got a speed of 20. It's one of the more faster battleships in the Imperial Guard army. It's got only 4 turrets, which is still pretty good for a battleship, but it makes it up for having a front armor 6 and a side armor 5. So anything attacking it in its front arc has to roll a 6, where 5 is needed to get on its side or behind it. Which by that point, since it's Imperial Guard, you're most likely going to be the ship's going to most likely be destroyed before it gets a chance to crack at the battleship itself. I also like this ship because it's got lances, whereas the Emperor class does not. Lances are really nice since they always hit on a 4+, regardless, and they don't have any, and they ignore blast markers and cloud effects and such. And it's got really nice range. It's got 60 centimeters on all of its weapons, and its weapon batteries are 12, so it can broadside fairly hard. And if you got a cruiser coming up alongside it to get a pincer move, it can really do a lot of damage to any battleship it goes up against. Again, it's also got the same hit points, and it's got 9 torpedoes, which I really like. I like torpedoes because it really causes a hindrance, because it basically limits the field of turning in view. Especially with Eldar, you want to be able to shoot torpedoes everywhere to keep the Eldar from going anywhere that they want to. And again, it suffers the same problem as it can't come to a new heading. Like I said, I probably mentioned this before, all battleships for the Imperial Guard are not allowed to use the come to a new heading special rule. But again, it doesn't really hinder them. These ships are not really meant for fast maneuverable combat. It's meant for going straight up the middle and blowing everything up in its path, and it can do it very, very well. And so between the two battleships in the Imperial Guard class, I think the Retribution class is a lot better. It's actually my favorite out of all of them. And in terms of battleship class-wise, they're actually pretty decent. They're very nice stats. They can fill a pretty solid core role. Like I say, the Retribution is more of an aggressive spaceship, which can hold on its own, whereas the Emperor battleship is more designed for having at least 2 cruisers on its side to give it support. And so that is basically what I can say about those 2 ships. And I'm running out of time for today, so we'll take this again next Monday, and we'll look into the Imperial Guard cruisers. So, until next time, this is Helios Raven, signing off.